Good morning. As I speak to you today, on the 28th day of Iyar, Koach, Chav Ches, the strength of Iyar, the day we celebrate the reunification of Yerushalayim, of Jerusalem, the holy city, 54 years ago, triple chai. There is violence going on in the holy city of Jerusalem. Sirens have just been wailing as rockets are pouring in, and I've seen Twitter reports that the Knesset, the foundation of the democracy of the Israeli government, is being evacuated due to the sirens. And this makes us think this has been 54 years since the reunification of Jerusalem, and it's also been over 75 years since 1948, where we have been back in Israel, and constantly and always, no matter what we do to allow everyone to celebrate their religion in the holy city of Jerusalem, there are those that will not allow us and will seek constantly to disturb our faith and our right to celebrate the holiest city of Jerusalem. Jerusalem is mentioned in the Tanakh over 600 times. And Jerusalem is at the heart of who we are as Jews. Every day in our prayers, 3 times, we ask God to bring us back, and bring us back to Zion, another name for Jerusalem. And we say, please bring the Messiah to bring us to Jerusalem. We speak about Yom Yerushalayim with great compassion. God, you should bring us back to the holy city of Jerusalem. And yet, today in 2021, there are rockets flying on Jerusalem, and people can't celebrate the way they used to Yom Yerushalayim. They have to change the routes, and they are not allowed to go near the holiest place of Judaism. I've told you many times the story about when the president of Israel, Weizmann, came to lobby in London, and he was lobbying for the new state of Israel. And one of the people he was lobbying said to him, a parliament person said, listen, I don't get it. There's so much violence and there's so much friction in Jerusalem. What do you need it? You guys have been through the Holocaust and so much. Why don't you build yourself a new place in Uganda, start a country far away from conflict where you will have everything you want? And he said, let me ask you something. Do you have parents? He says, my mother's alive. And how often do you visit her? He says, it was just Mother's Day yesterday, guys, right? We know. He says, I try to go once a month, but it's tough. There's rush hour traffic, and in general, getting across London, it could take me 2 hours to get from my house to hers. So Weizmann says, I don't understand. Why would you schlep 2 hours and waste it on driving to go see your mom when you could just go next door and find the mother and wish her happy Mother's Day and say hello to her? And the guy looks at her and says, that's ridiculous, because that's my mother, and I want to see her. I don't want to just see any mother. And Weizmann smiles at him and says, that's why we're not going to Uganda, because this is our land for thousands of years. We've cherished, we've celebrated, we've loved, we've prayed to. When Jews are in exile, wherever they may be, they face eastward towards Israel. And if they're in Israel, they face eastward towards Jerusalem, towards Yerushalayim, Kodesh, towards the Temple Mount where the 2 temples stood. And even in the depth of crisis, when there's worry and hate and rockets, today we celebrate this great day of Yom Yerushalayim. And we're getting ready to celebrate Shavuot. This coming week we're going to celebrate the holiday next week, Monday, when God gave us the Torah. And last week's Torah portion, the first portion was called Bahar, which means the mountain. And the question, of course, the rabbis ask, why is it called Bahar? It should have been called Bahar Sinai, the mountain of Sinai. It's not just a mountain, it's about Sinai. And in fact, if you know the famous story, God told us, we know the story of the mountains, that God was going to give the Torah, and one mountain said, I'm the tallest. And the other mountain said, no, but I am the widest, and I am the strongest. And Mount Sinai was a little humble mountain. And God chose it because of its humility. And the question, of course, is if that's the case, why is it called Bahar in the mountain? It should be called just Sinai, which represents humility. And the answer, of course, is because God didn't choose a valley to give the Torah in. God gave the Torah where? On a mountain. Because yes, He wants us to be humble, but He wants us to have Jewish pride, to be proud of who we are, to stand up for our principles, for our rights. And the same is true with Israel. Yes, we always have to have our hands stretched out with love and peace, but we have to stand strong, and we have to celebrate our rights to Jerusalem, to Israel, to the undivided and forever united Yerushalayim that God gave the Jewish people as a gift. May Hashem give us that we should celebrate safely and securely, and Jerusalem should be a place where all faiths and all religions should be able to pray together to the one God that gave us the greatest gift of all. Have a great day.